Well, welcome to another edition of the Inglorious Pastords in our new studio.
What do you think?
In Atlantic Avenue, Atlantic City, Atlantic Avenue. I went Monopoly for a minute there. Oh, your little jacket back there looks tacky. We don't want this to look tacky.
We don't. We're just adjusting to these new digs. Bruce's office. The light from this window over here is very nice, Bruce.
The light from the window is nice, and the camera is really high. It's really, people are used to looking up our noses.
No, that light, like you can actually, we look brighter.
Yeah, and if we both look this way instead of at the camera, our faces are illuminated like angels. We're the Inglorious Angels.
Oh,
that's actually the.
No, we look brighter and clearer, I think. Of course, for our people just hearing this, we're just put up with us.
This is inane ramblings for them. Right. They're like, please get to. Well, you guys never get to the really important part. Hard to know when that happens. It's usually a pretty solid transition, though. Like a segue into. Oh, wait, we're about to say something important. Everybody, tune in. What I'm noticing lately on these podcasts and videocasts is now everyone starts it with, hey, and if you watch it till the end, there's a special bonus, because there's apparently something you get if people watch the thing all the way to the end. It pushes you up in the rankings.
But we don't need that, because
so let's say that. So, and if you watch till the end, Roger's got a special gift that he's going to give to you at the end of this podcast video cast. YouTube thing.
See, we don't need that, because people listen all the way through. There's nobody who turns on the Pastords and 2 minutes in shuts it off.
Well, that's true. No one gets 2 minutes in. I think our average viewing time, last time we checked the metrics, was 37 seconds.
It was generally saying most people click on your podcast by accident.
And that was folks in Japan. They stayed with it as long as they could, but they're like, no, I don't think they're going to speak in anything other than English. So we are out.
We're going after the Japanese today, huh?
The Japanese are on my mind because I've been watching so many movies about the atom bomb, and it's just been fascinating.
Well, there's a cheery. I guess our Japanese listeners just checked out there.
That was not as helpful as I was probably hoping.
Our Japanese listeners check out. Here's one of many podcasts we have on Hiroshima.
And yes, okay. Wow, here we are.
This office is more laughy.
It's more laughing. It's true. All right, so Roger, are we in an election year? I can't tell. I haven't noticed the usual number of ads.
I don't know why you would bring that up.
Because I listened to your facecast this morning about the groaning.
So many more of whoever was left outside the Japanese has now just checked out. All you had to do was just mention.
This is the Inglorious Pastords, the political edition, where Roger and I tell you who to and not to. I'm not going to say the word.
Here, place your bets whether either of these two lead candidates for the major parties will be alive in 4 years.
Yeah, well, that's a great question, because we're talking, I bet President Ronald Reagan was old. I was mistaken.
No, it just seems like on that front, the Democratic Party's sort of taking a chance there.
Yeah. Well,
first time we've ever had anyone in the Oval Office who operated out of an assisted living.
There's some great. There's just some great. If you look up Joe Biden senior living, there's just some great videos. It was something like White House senior living. It was so good. Oh, all right.
Speaking of assisted living, how are you feeling about your Broncos?
Oh, I don't know. They dumped Russell, right?
They did. You know what your cap hit is?
$40 million this year.
Yeah, I think the total cap hit's like $85 million.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to pick up a high school graduate to play at quarterback for us this year, because that's all we can afford. He's coming in at the league minimum, $150,000 a year.
You could have gotten Mac Jones for a 6th-round pick. We dished him off.
And is he going? So is like Russell going to Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh.
Got it. Very interesting.
Mac Jones went to Jacksonville.
Mac went to Jacksonville.
And we have a new coach at New England.
Hold on, wait. They went to Jacksonville, so he's going to be underneath. What's his name?
Well, I just
Trevor
know
Lawrence.
He's at Jacksonville.
It's interesting because Trevor Lawrence is clearly their guy, unless they traded him.
And both of those guys were picked in the first round 3 years ago, and they're both.
Wow, so Jacksonville's kind of loaded at quarterback.
Yep,
interesting.
And the Patriots have a new coach.
Who's their new coach?
Gerard Mayo, Tennessee guy.
Okay, and that was, I think, when we last talked, it was kind of headed that direction.
Right. There was a lot of rumor that but they had a succession plan. In fact, behind the scenes, it was written into his contract. I think the year before, when nobody knew.
Right.
But when he stayed on in a coordinator role, he was going to be the successor. So it can be very interesting. This is that. Yeah. Going into a very new kind of year for us. So, I mean, it's going to be figure out what's the Gerard Mayo way.
But you have some tremendous continuity because he's been with the system for a long time,
and he's great on the defensive side of the ball. So I think, and our defense, I think, looks very, very solid. All the speculation now with trading Mac Jones is that we have the third pick, so it's probably going to be a quarterback.
Yeah, I'm just now looking to see who we picked up for a quarterback.
Have you? Oh no!
Oh,
Bruce is in mourning.
Some people believe Stidham can be the Broncos' #1 quarterback. He had a little Stidham stint over at the Patriots.
Oh yeah, no. They drafted him.
All right, interesting.
So all these connections.
All right.
Yeah.
Fun. All right. Well,
now that we've talked about the serious things, anything unimportant to talk about?
Well, I read a story this morning that I haven't read in years. I mean, because I was going through John and Luke and Mark, and then I just wandered back into Matthew in this season. But it was the parable of the wedding banquet. It's told differently in Matthew than it is in some of the other stories. So the king has this giant wedding feast for his son, and so he invites all of these people to come to it, and the people that he invites say no. One goes on with his business, another one goes on with his fields and his work, and it's just like they're going to do their thing. So the king says, all right, well, just go into the streets and invite anyone and everyone. So now and again, this is on the heels of Jesus saying what you referenced last week: the prostitutes and sinners and tax collectors are entering the kingdom ahead of you.
Ahead of you.
So on the heels of that, he tells this. He's telling
very, very popular saying of Jesus.
Yeah, he's telling this story. And so he says they go and they invite people in the streets, good and bad. It's interesting that Jesus makes that good and bad, just everybody. Just invites all of them into the thing. So you get into the banquet hall. You got now all of it. He said, so the banquet hall is completely full. And he said, then the king's going through the banquet hall and he sees one person that's not wearing wedding clothes. Not totally what that means. Would love to get your take on that. And he said, how did you get into the wedding banquet without wedding clothes? And it said the man was speechless. And then Jesus said, well, tie him up, throw him outside into outer darkness where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And I'm like, all right, so a couple of things going on there. The first part of that parable I get, or I believe I understand that being the Jewish people were, and Jesus finishes it by saying something. Okay, sorry, my bad.
Finish it.
He says, for many are invited, but few are chosen. Many are invited, but few are chosen. So there was this idea that this person was one of the invited ones, but not chosen. And there's a reason for that. So it's just an interesting story. So for the first people that were invited, Jesus seems to be referencing the Jewish nation. He's been saying it's a little bit like the subjects of the kingdom didn't want to come. In fact, they mistreated the servants and killed some of them. That was earlier in the story, that went to even invite them to the banquet. So he seems to be referencing the Old Testament prophets, which Jesus did multiple times. And he said, you're just others who killed the prophets, and you're going to kill the king's son on top of that. And by the way, this is also on the heels of the parable of the vineyard, where the guy rents out his vineyard to tenants, and they kill the servants when they came to get their fruit, the harvest, and they killed the son. So all of that, so that seems to be very clear. The Jewish people, they were God's chosen people to initiate this kingdom that God had established for all mankind. But many of them rejected Christ as king, and so they're missing out on the wedding feast. But there's a guy in the wedding hall, because everyone was invited, good and bad. But there's at least one guy that was in there, and the king says, "How did you get in there without wedding clothes?" So a couple of speculative ideas on this. I've heard some people teach that there would be wedding clothes that would be provided by the master of the wedding, or the king in this case, that a person would have to wear if they want to be a part of the party.
Okay.
A little bit like if you're a part of the wedding party and you're supposed to be wearing the black tux and the girls are supposed to be wearing the autumn orange dresses. Can you imagine if one person just wore jeans and a t-shirt? Yeah, I don't want to wear the clothes you guys picked out. It really doesn't work for me. It's just not, it kind of clashes with me. It's not really my color. So he's like, so whether it was clothes provided by the king, or whether there was simply, because the last wedding we went to had a dress code, if you will, and it said, what was it? Semi-formal attire, which means a jacket and a tie. I had to look it up. I literally had to look that up.
Was there a bouncer at the door?
I'm like, what's semi-formal? Well, apparently, formal is like you have to wear. It's going to be the tuxedo with the little Cumberbatch right there. Cumberland Cumberbatch. What was his name? Isn't there a British actor?
There is, yes.
Cumberbatch.
Cumbersome.
It's good. But so either he didn't have the right attire that was dictated for this wedding, or he decided not to wear the clothes that were provided for him. But I realized as I was driving in this morning, I'm like, well, the idea is pretty much the same. You can't tell me what to do. I immediately thought of Billy Joel. Leave me alone. This is my life. I'll do what I want.
Right.
The idea being, whatever that meant about the wedding clothes, this person was like, yeah, not for me.
Right.
So what did you think? Because the other thing it brought to mind is, and I know there's a lot of different people that see this parable differently, but or this teaching of Jesus differently said, and many people said the kingdom of heaven is forcefully advancing, and many are forcing their way into it. In other words, they're trying to get in on their own terms. But I don't have to wear your clothes, and whatever. I don't have to go with your attire. It was clear that this person recognized that they're not in the clothes. But it's like I'm going to do it my way. You're not the boss of me. You can't tell me what to do. And the king said, well, actually, I am. And I can. So you're out. Yeah. What are your thoughts? I gave you my limited thoughts.
Well, the beautiful thing, I think, Jesus' stories, and here you have one that looks like there's a couple of different ideas. Right. There's this one idea, and there's other places where there's multiple thoughts, or there's layers. So one part resonates with God's not willing that any should perish. The invitation
is to everyone.
So, which is radical. I mean, it's this beautiful word, even the good, the bad. However you are stationed in life, however you are pigeonholed or stereotyped or shamed or canceled, you aren't with God. God's that he wants all. The Father's house, if you would, is a place for all of us. So that is this very powerful message to a culture, culture, certainly in our culture. But equally powerful to our culture, which has this intense individualism of I'll do it my way. Right. Yeah. That I should be able, right? Yeah. Frank Sinatra. I should be able to
dictate,
right? And so I'll create the terms. But even if you think about even your analogy before of someone coming to a wedding, the wedding is about the bride and the groom,
right? Good point.
If you're not co-opting it oh, I'm going to come in my, now you're putting yourself front and center. You're not putting,
you're making it about you at that point.
The marriage.
Yeah.
So everything but the Father's house, you're making it about you. And so this part is of even this humbling yourself, which I'm not great with. I mean, the humbling is just not, because, by the way, I'm very much, I like to do it my way kind of person. There's anyone who knows
I know,
me.
that's why I brought this story to the table this morning, Rod.
Joy paid you to do this, didn't she?
Joy said, "Hey, Bruce, I got a little story you should share on the Pastords today." I'm like, okay, be happy to.
Because
You want me to make it seem innocuous, like I didn't know ahead of time what we were going to talk about? Okay, I got it. I'm on it.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
So I resonate. But here's the thing is, this other pervasive theme is in the Bible is we aren't good enough to get in on our own. All your righteousness, even here we're looking at garments, there's filthy rags. So the best dressing up I can do, you can have the person coming to the wedding and they're wearing the nicest thing that this is what but it's what I like. This is an
Armani suit, $4,000. Very
right.
nice.
We're not even right. Because even if you look at,
but the wedding was beach casual, so either way you're out.
Jesus said what to the Pharisees at one point, in the Sermon on the Mount, unless your righteousness exceeds the rightness, your clothing,
teachers of the law.
In other words, any clothing you're creating on your own, isn't enough. It's actually part of our brokenness. Maybe the deepest part of our brokenness, maybe that's Adam and Eve, is I'll do it my way. That is, I'm not comfortable with the terms you've laid down here. So the idea that God the Father would have here, not even a dress code, it's simply, literally, it's not possible without the righteousness of God. You might even say the kingdom of heaven would destroy it. You're not strong enough. That you're not. You have to be transformed. You have to be changed. So there's this open invitation to everyone, which should bring us great joy and even a sense of pride that God would want me. But then this is balanced out by this humility you have to have, where I'm going to let you change me. I'm going to let you do what needs to be done. I'm not going to live just about myself for me, because this is at the heart, I think, of our brokenness. Even if you look at Satan, I'll do it my way. I'll do it my way is maybe at the root.
And what you said, I think, helps the reader understand what Jesus said right before that. So there's multiple parables and teaching that Jesus does right there.
I love these multiple, when he does chain parables.
He's going to help you see. He's going to help you see it. But the vineyard and the people that didn't want the master to have any fruit from that. And then he is like, have you never read? Because they wanted to kill him. They knew that they said that the teachers and the teachers of the law and the chief priests knew that he was talking about them, and they wanted to kill him. And Jesus says, have you never read? The stone that was rejected has now become the capstone. And then Jesus says this, and I believe you just explained it. He said, the person who falls on this rock will be shattered, but the person on whom it falls will be crushed. And I was like, wow, there is this surrender, this shattering, this breaking. There is the surrendering to the lordship of Christ and to the will of the Father. There's a breaking that has to happen. We have to come in like children with nothing to offer. But then he says, but on whom this rock falls will be crushed. In other words, if you choose not to surrender, then this rock will overcome you. You said something like, you're not weighty enough to get in, but its weight will get you. And again, I don't say that to be scary. It's just because when I get to the very end, many are invited, but few are chosen. One person could translate that or interpret that to mean, well, we never know. We're everyone's invited, but you can't possibly know whether you're in. But the guy seemed to know he was not in the right clothes. I mean, he had no answer for why he chose what he chose, but it seems like he chose. You see what I'm saying?
But the funny thing is, he thought his choice was perfectly acceptable. Of course you should. And it reminds me, if I'm thinking back to Jesus' stories, think back to the story of those who will say to Jesus, wait a second. We
did all this cool stuff.
We were really good people. We did. In other words, they're explaining their attire. You understand what I'm wearing. You understand how I'm coming. And if I think even to, again, so often the people Jesus seemed to be aiming this toward, what the enter in by your own righteousness was the way they wanted it to work. That was the way that made sense. That was, I'll do it my way. And the idea that you wouldn't have classes of people, the idea that anybody, that scoundrels could get in. What pleases human pride is I win it. I'm better than I get in because I'm better than other people. And Jesus, that's precisely what's blocking you. Your idea that you're better than other people, your idea that actually getting in is being superior to other people, being more righteous.
I love that. I love what Andy Stanley says about that. He talks about how good is good enough. And he's like, if you're ever standing before God and he's saying, he asks you the question, why should I let you into my kingdom? Don't whip out your Bible. He goes, you're not that good.
Right.
I'm just like, it's true. Hey, but I studied diligently. But,
No, you think about all the places where this comes up.
Right.
Jesus says 2 people go up to the temple to pray.
Yep.
It's the Pharisee, knows more scripture than almost anyone. He's very righteous. He's very good.
Possibly knows more scripture than God.
He's got the tax collector who's a traitor, scoundrel, has sold out his people. He's got these 2 people that come to pray, and it is fascinating. One prays, God be merciful to me, a sinner. The other one pulls out a report card.
Yeah.
No, he does.
A dress code.
No, exactly. In other words,
I've got the right
He's
socks.
literally saying, look how I'm dressed.
Mm-hmm. And look how he's dressed.
He says, I thank you. I'm not wearing the pitiful clothing this guy.
He's thanking God for what he's not. I thank God that I'm not wearing the wedding clothes that man is wearing. Because the wedding clothes seem to be, God be merciful to me, a sinner. That's the clothes. Right. That's the clothes you want on.
And doesn't look like that's very much. No. We might say that's a bit immodest. We might say, I can't even look at that guy over there. He needs to get more clothes on. But look what I'm wearing.
Did not know this was a naturalist wedding. No.
So but I ache for this guy who literally, his prayer
is thanking God.
Was how good he is. So in other words, I think we didn't put this person at the wedding. I don't think he believes for a second he's not going to be included because he's wearing such nice clothes.
Yeah.
He's worked so hard. I went to church. You are aware of that, right? You're aware that I've memorized all kinds of scriptures. You're aware that I'm president of my homeowners association. You're aware that mm-hmm. So I don't think I think it's almost this kind of naivete, but well, of course I'll be like the people saying, well, of course I'm going to get in.
Maybe this is just a talk that's going to work into my whole repertoire this year, but it's this idea that you have plenty of people that have bought in, but they haven't sold out. They buy into the kingdom, they buy into who Jesus is, but they never sell out. They're never broken on the rock. They never surrender. When I look at the teaching of Jesus over and over and over again, there's this reality of surrender. Jesus he would tell a story of one king surrendering to another king. And I say to you, because the weaker king doesn't determine the terms of peace. The stronger king determines the terms of peace. And so the person has to surrender, raise the white flag. I accept your terms of peace. The beautiful thing about that, what I love about that story is terms of peace. want to have peace with God. I want to have peace with myself. But there is a surrender that has to happen first. There has to be the first statement in the Lord's Prayer, your will be done, not mine. Even when I was praying this morning, I was like, Lord, there's lots of things that I want, and I want to pray through those things, but I want what you want first and foremost.
Yep.
It's that I want what I want, or I think that I need, or I think that's important, but I have reached this place in my life where I'm like, I was thinking about this last night. This is going to sound crazy to people, but here we go. I was like, Lord, I want what you want, even if it's not what I want. Because I trust that what you want is best, even if it's not what I...
And enough of my life experience has showed me.
Yeah. What I want is not always what
it's not always best. I still want what I want. The heart wants what it wants. But if I look at the core part of me, I want God, that I truly believe God knows what is best. And whatever he takes me through, whatever prayer he doesn't answer, there is a good reason. There is a good God at work in what he doesn't give, just like there's a good God at work in the things that he does give, what he gives, what he takes away. And I'm going to trust his wisdom over mine.
Yeah.
But I do like what you were saying. I think there's a power, there's a weight to the fact of I can want the gifts of the king without the king himself. I want to be at the wedding, but I don't want the will of the king. I don't want his way. I want his house. I
want his blessing.
I want his blessing, but I don't want his way. I want my way. And this is again that fundamental block, which as you pointed out, we're blocking our own good. We're actually
right. Surrender is what leads us to peace.
Yes.
And it's we lose peace when we seek to be the controller or the one in power. In other words, when you think about worry and anxiety and when I think about my story and how it affects me if I'm worrying about something, it's almost like I haven't surrendered that thing to God because I'm trying to protect, maintain, control, ensure. But when I give that back to God, even when I look at our children and our concerns for our children, what I tell parents now after being a parent, I have a 25-year-old son, but having gone through the difficult, what were then the difficult years of the teenage years and all of that, I would say, chill out a little bit because your child can do anything that they want to do and you can't stop it. You can't, in other words, by worrying about it, you can't stop it. You can forbid it. I forbade Zach to do all sorts of things. Did them all. Well, I'm like, well, that didn't work. So it's almost like, why are we worrying about? There is a beautiful thing, but when you surrender, I remember that point that I just surrendered Zach to God because I felt like God was saying, Bruce, Zach's going to be fine. I did not interpret that or understand that or sense that to be Zach's not going to go through some very hard things,
right?
But he's going to be fine. He's my child, and I was like, oh yeah, he's yours. Okay, and I'm like, that gave me peace. Well, if he's my child,
take care of him.
Well, right. If he's my child and I'm responsible for him and everything he does is a reflection on me, then I've got to control, fix, spin, manipulate, image manage. And I'm like, no, he's God's child. Yeah. Did you know your son? Yeah. Very familiar. Yeah, it was caught on video. Right.
But it's the beauty of ultimately that entering into the Father's house, into the joy of the Father, relationship with the Father, we have to humble ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't have to make ourselves better. In fact, that's actually
the one thing we don't do.
We have to entirely let go of control. Even the way of is I'm going to let God pick my clothing. I'm going to let God, I'm going to let what you prayed today.
Do you think God picked that?
Well, I didn't pray this morning before dressing, so.
Well, that is where the problem is, because you look crushed.
Yeah, I know. but this is the kind of clothing that gets you into the wedding.
Which is good. Our numbers are off on, that's very interesting. Because I still got more time and you started after I did. So the pastors, as we wrap this up.
How are we going to wrap it up?
Well, you're going to give everyone a new iPad who says something in the chat about how good this episode was.
Good luck with that.
Yes.